Hi, my name is Julie, and on this channel I share my spiritual journey to help others feel less alone. And today I'm going to tell you about the 5 moments in my life that completely changed my understanding of the universe. And if you've ever wondered what spiritual awakening truly looks like, these are the moments that shaped my path. This isn't theory, they aren't ideas or stories I heard somewhere, they're lived moments. And they completely cracked my understanding of life, death, intuition, what the soul is capable of, and the connection we have with those that have crossed over. And together, these experiences shape the path I'm walking on today. The first one of these experiences happened when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and it gave me a new understanding of what intuition is and what clairknowing feels like. I was at the hospital for some tests, and I was in the waiting room, and this man walked up to the reception desk, and he looked a little bit like the father of my boyfriend at the time. And as I looked at him approach the reception desk, I had this strong knowing, like a flash of understanding that my boyfriend's father was ill somehow. And I thought maybe I was hallucinating this because I was seeing this man that looked like his father, but I couldn't shake that feeling all day. It was so intense. It was like he's sick, something's happening with him, he's ill. And I just brushed it aside all day until the next morning I woke up and I had the same feeling again as I was waking up, knowing that his brother was sick. And I know this sounds like unbelievable, but it really happened that way. And I woke up and I'm like, oh my God, something's wrong with his brother. And I was so confused about this information. I knew, I didn't know exactly what was wrong, but I knew health and illness was upon these two people. And so I talked about it with my boyfriend that day, knowing maybe I'd look silly with this information. But it turned out that 3 weeks later, his brother had a heart attack. And a few weeks after that, we found out his father he had cancer. And so he was really sick. At the time, I didn't have any spiritual language for this. I wasn't meditating, I wasn't practicing intuition. All I knew was that it didn't come from guessing or from thinking, it arrived on its own. And for me, it arrived twice that time. And thinking back, this was my first experience with clairknowing, like a deep, intrusive thought, something that just arrives on its own and you just know. And it planted a seed in me that sometimes information comes, knowledge comes a long time before the evidence does. And so that was the first significant spiritual experience in my life. And it opened me up to other forms of truth. The second experience that shaped my journey was when I was around 35 years old and my grandfather passed away. And this experience showed me a different way of seeing death and our connection to those who have passed away. And the story goes, my grandfather was passing away. I spent his last days with him in the hospital. He was in a coma and he had a beautiful death. I was really happy to be there. But as soon as he passed away, the lights in the room started to flicker. And they flickered for a big part of the day. Even when we got his home later that day, the lights flickered at his home. And when I got to my home later that week, the lights flickered in my home. I even asked him to flicker those lights for me, and he did. And a few hours after he passed, a few of us got some black photos on our phones while we weren't even close to our phones, we were away from them. And the signs kept coming for many, many days. And even when we drove down to his hometown where we were gonna lay his body to rest, on our way there, I got a message on my phone that I had sold a photo I had posted online, and it was the first and the only photo I've sold in my life. But this photo sold on that day as we were driving down to put his body to rest, and the photo's name was Going Home, and it was a photo of the exact road we were driving on to bring him to his resting place. And so signs like this kept coming, and I understood them to be direct communication from him. That's the moment I realized that death doesn't separate us. It just changes the way we communicate with them. And this experience is the reason I became so open to the veil and signs and to everything that came later on my spiritual path. So that was story number 2. Now, the third experience that shaped my spiritual path is something that happened when I was 36 years old, almost a year to the date after my grandfather's passing. And this is when I had my first astral projection. So the story, I've already talked about it on this channel, so I will go over it briefly. If you want to see that, you can watch the video. I'm going to put a card up there somewhere. And my astral projection happened in my home. I was meditating in the afternoon, and during the meditation, I started having some auditory disturbances, and I understood that this is probably what was going on. I was going to have an astral projection. I had heard about it before. I had tried before. This was not planned, but as it was happening, I realized what was happening, and I levitated out of my body, rose up to the ceiling of my bedroom, back down. Then I got out of my bedroom, and while I was in the kitchen, I practiced levitating, and I even saw someone there with me. So you can tell that before I went back to my body, this astral projection was nothing dramatic. It wasn't like flying through tunnels or in the sky. It was just a few minutes of being outside of my body, inside my home. But this changed everything, because once you've been out of your body, you know what's possible. And it completely changed my understanding of reality, like it does with many people who have had this experience. And it validated everything the signs my grandfather had sent and what they were pointing to. That moment was enough to take away any doubts I ever had about, is there life after death? Or does the soul go on? Or does the soul exist? Or are we just contained within this physical body? There had always been doubt in my mind. Was I just making this up? Was this real? But after you've had your first astral projection, for me, it changed everything. Like, there was no more doubt. This astral projection was the moment that changed everything on my spiritual path. It really ignited this desire in me to understand more about other realities and to be connected with those that have crossed over, and to really understand what's in other dimensions. But it was especially the moment I realized I am not my physical body. My fourth spiritual experience happened at the age of 43, and it wasn't mystical in a beautiful way. It was mystical in a life-shattering way. This is when my soul dog, Monsieur, passed away in 2023. And this happened amidst me already going through some sort of existential crisis. And so when my soul dog passed away, I was plunged into a dark night of the soul. I didn't understand why I was still here, what my purpose was. I had no direction. I just wanted to leave this plane. And there's a small voice inside me that said to wait 6 months. You know, I still had people who loved me here. I knew this was an intense moment. I knew it would be. And so I tried to hold on for at least 6 months. And during that time, grief really stopped being just grief. It kind of became a spiritual fire. And I went on retreats. I went to an ayahuasca retreat. I went to the Monroe Institute. I tried DMT, not because I needed adventure, but really because I was desperately trying to understand existence. I was longing for Monsieur so much that the longing transformed. And amidst longing for Monsieur, I found myself longing for oneness. I think I'd heard about that before, but it just came to me. I was so longing for Monsieur, and it kind of pulled me into wanting even more, like wanting to unite with it all, to come home. I was longing for truth, for oneness. And this moment is when my spiritual path stopped being interesting and it became necessary. This was where the seeker in me became a mystic in training. On my spiritual path, it's pain that broke me open. I was longing for Monsieur so much that I started longing for the divine. And what came next was an experience that showed me that awakening isn't only born from pain. It can also come from direct contact with the unseen. So what happened next is an experience that saved my life. So amidst this dark night of the soul, this searching for oneness, this spiritual fire burning in me and me running towards all these experiences to help me alleviate my suffering, I had a solo DMT trip here in my home. And during this trip, I found myself in a void. And instead of finding peace or reunion or escape, I found myself face to face with a higher intelligence, one that showed me every wound I'd ever tried to run from. The trauma, abandonment, hopelessness, the part of me that really wanted life to end, just to be with Monsieur. It felt like torture, but not meaningless torture. It was almost surgical. It used the exact fears and memories that I had that shaped my desire to leave this world. And the message that this intelligence had for me was that my place was here, alive on earth right now, that I had purpose. When I came back, I cried. Not from fear, I cried from resignation, because I understood that and I knew that my place was here and I wasn't meant to die. I was meant to stay here, painfully alive. And that moment, as terrifying as it was, it became a turning point in my spiritual path, because that night, something important shifted. I stopped running from my pain and I started walking through it. And from there, everything opened. That's when I found Ram Dass and other spiritual teachers and teachings. And that's when I created a meditation for the remembrance of Monsieur, and I use this meditation every day in my grieving process. And that's when I found non-dual teachings and new insights and teachers and experiences. And it felt like, pieces of a puzzle coming together, falling into place. That experience taught me that suffering isn't the end of the path. It's part of the path. And even when life hurts, existence still has meaning. I came here for a reason. And these 5 moments together, from intuition to grieving to rebirth, they form the map of my awakening and the spiritual journey I'm on today. They're the reason I'm still here, the reason I share my journey today. So if you're going through your own spiritual unraveling or searching for meaning the way I was, then I hope that this video offered you something true. Feel free to stay connected and share your own experiences in the comments, and I genuinely read them all. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.